Five, four, three, two, and you're on.
Hello, folks. David from the HIP podcast. Today we have local DFW photographer Shawn with us. Shawn, introduce yourself and say hi to the folks.
Well, appreciate you having me, David. Again, my name is Shawn. Originally from Phoenix, Arizona. Been out here in the Dallas area about almost 10 years now. Coined the name Infinite Soul Imagery. Been shooting for about 4 years and touch a little bit of everything now.
Oh, cool. And you said you were military background growing up.
Yes. So my pops was in the Air Force, 21 years, 20 long one years. But it was good memories, good memories. Got to see a lot of stuff that most young folks don't ever see.
You said, where was the neatest place you went to?
It was Stanton, England. So from there, it's very different. Especially, I think I was like between middle school going into junior high, going into high school was my transition out there. But we also traveled over to Paris and things from that point. So it was really good. You know, at one point, I was pretty good with French. You know, but you come back to the States, you don't, carry it, you lose it. So the most I can do is introduce myself.
Oh, well, parlez-vous, I can't even say it.
Parlez-vous français?
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, when you were over there, you were old enough to appreciate the castles and the countryside and everything else you got to see?
Yeah, absolutely. And even as a young kid, so you go to I think it's the Oxford Viewing Center or whatnot. And as a kid, it seems like the most interesting thing. You learn about the Prime Meridian. You see this big giant red light that they have in the middle of the museum talking about you have just crossed the Prime Meridian. You get this little certificate. And for whatever reason, that's a memory that stuck with me. So like, oh, okay, I did something big, even though it's just a line in the ground. But it was something nice. But sightseeing, really, when we went from England to Paris, the best beautiful view is sunset in Paris. And you can see it. Used to be Lover's Lock Lane before they took it down. But you could see, all the locks. You see the sun coming down. You see just how the lights start to slowly lighting up at the same time, like almost in unison with the sunset. And it was just the most beautiful thing. So as a young kid seeing that and still having that memory, I'm stoked to see it again.
Do you have a camera?
I do. I'm looking into wanting to just kind of reliving some of those beautiful sites of where we traveled, just little memories, and just going back with a camera and just, capturing those shots. But I want to do it with my kids.
Do you have kids?
So I have one right now, and then I got one cooking. So
okay. How old is the one now?
So my oldest is 13.
Oh. Well, you don't look about 22 to me.
Pushing on 33.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And he's 13?
She's 13, yes.
She's 13.
Yes. And she's picking up the knack for the camera. So she started picking it up, shooting herself. She's more into wildlife and landscape photography. So that's her niche that she's been going after.
Does she have her own camera yet?
She does. She shoots with a 77D Canon. So what started it all for me.
Are you still a Canon guy?
I am. I've looked at the Sony a little bit, but I think I'm Canon through and through.
Here you go. I'm a Canon guy too, folks. What can I tell you?
Yeah.
So, how long have you been shooting?
So about 4, going on 5 years.
5 years?
Mm-hmm.
What got you into it?
Honestly, it was the need to get out of corporate America. So it was one of those, like, I started way back, I want to say in high school. It was like a studio class that I had, or we did like video announcements, stuff like that. But we mixed in with the yearbook, so I took pictures and did video. Probably one of my easiest class, but one of my funnest class as well. So then it made me end up going to Arizona State as a film major, going there. But I kind of left it. I followed suit, what my parents were teaching me. Hey, I don't really know if a film degree is going to get you, job offers in life. So you might want to look at something else. So finally listened, did a whole 180 and went to criminal justice. But as I was working, going down the regular pathway, it was just like, okay, this is what life's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be doing this for the next 40 plus years, hardly spending time with family. Like, this is what I'm called to do. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. So I was like, what am I good at? I'm good with a camera, picked it back up, just started shooting just little events here and there, then started getting requests, and it just blew up from there, kind of bringing back an old passion.
So you have a criminal justice degree?
Yes.
So what in corporate America was your job?
So funny enough, I get the degree, I've never touched it. So
Really?
I worked in finances all throughout college. So doing any type of banking, just, anything with numbers and money and opening of accounts type ordeal, that's what I touched. So I ended up staying in that path and was a loan officer when I moved out here to Dallas, helping people refinance mortgages, write new loans. That was kind of like the big money niche. Like, it was really good, profitable.
Right, yeah.
But there was no time, like absolutely no time in that. And as much as you can be like, oh, well, you made a lot of money. Now it's like, but when do you really get to enjoy it? It's like my now wife and my daughter, they got to enjoy it. I got to watch them from the sidelines, be like, okay, cool, you see it. I'll see y'all if y'all right before you go to bed type ordeal. And I just didn't want to do that.
You make the money, but you don't have time to spend it.
Yeah.
But you had help to spend it, right?
Yes, definitely had help.
Wives and daughters tend to do that.
Oh, absolutely. They know exactly what they want before it hits their bank account.
Yeah.
So it's accounted for.
I've never had any daughters. I got 4 boys,
Okay.
and they're only slightly less expensive.
Yeah.
They like trucks,
Ah.
boats. Those damn things aren't cheap.
Oh, at all. We just started looking at a truck ourselves. And I'm not really the truck guy, but I feel like it's a Texas spirit that you have to have a truck or something. And everybody's been talking me into, but I'm still more SUV style.
I've had all types of vehicles, and at one time I had 9 Toyotas,
Okay.
and not in my garage. I was in the courier business,
Okay.
and back then we supplied the vehicles to the drivers. And Toyotas were the most reliable.
Mm.
And then my wife drove a Toyota. And when I married her, I was driving an RX-7.
Okay.
I ended up in a Mazda small pickup.
Oh, wow.
And, but she was driving an MG when I met her too. So, but kids change things.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed my pickups, but I like the SUV better.
Mm-hmm.
And I was big into fishing for a long time, tournament fishing.
Okay.
So I was always towing a boat somewhere. And I preferred the SUV
Yeah.
versus the pickup. And I've had both. It's just easier to carry stuff, and you don't have to take it out of the bed of the truck and carry it in.
Mm-hmm.
You can lock it up and leave it in the SUV.
Yeah.
So how often do you get to shoot these days?
So now I've kind of reduced down to about every other weekend is usually where I'm at. I've been called to do a lot of, event photography. So I've been doing a lot of the fashion shows lately. It's baby season. So a
Right.
lot of baby showers have been the request, and I enjoy it. Anytime with just seeing family and just, especially the fashion shows. Like, it's crazy what people come up with when it comes to designers, just the creativity. And I'm just like, okay, so when are we booking the sub shoot to be like, okay, let's really bring this piece to life. So it's been fun.
Once upon a time, I shot a few fashion shows,
Mm-hmm.
but that's been 40 years.
Mm.
And then the models walking the runway interacted with the audience.
Yeah.
From what little I've seen these days, a robot going up and down the runway would do the same thing. No interaction with the audience at all.
Yeah.
And I understand the designers did not want the models distracting from the dress.
Mm-hmm.
So don't interact with the audience. They'll like you. They won't look at the dress, type of thing.
Mm.
Do they still do that? They're walking mannequins?
There's some similarity. It depends upon who's walking, because there's some people that will really give character to a piece, And I think they go hand in hand. So when they do the model casting for certain designers, I feel like they're looking at, that model to be like, okay, hey, my piece is banging, but you need to give it the heart. You need to make it beat. And just seeing things like that, that's probably the new age way. They don't necessarily fully interact with the crowd. You don't have real crowd participation or pointing or, props or things of that nature. But there's some that bring just a higher energy than just walking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
So are you still in corporate America at all?
I have gone back recently. It's just, new seasons, new demands. So I've gone
New
back.
economy.
Yeah. But we have a game plan, so it's only temporary to knock out a couple goals that we have, because eventually the ultimate goal and what I'm really trying to build there for is I want to purchase, a large plot of land. And the whole purpose for the land is to really just give a space for creators to be able to create, whether it's film, whether it's photography, whatever that looks like, this is your playground. And I really want more. I need people to buy into it, because it's going to take other photographers to help other photographers. But it's really to help that person that's just starting, that has no income, no idea about a camera, to be able to know that, okay, there's someone that's willing to help. But it's not just about the camera, because there's a lifestyle behind it. There's conversations behind it, especially married, when you're shooting certain things. Like, you have to have a conversation before you shoot someone partially nude, implied nude, any of those things,
right,
to where she's comfortable with it. She knows, okay, you're being respectful with the models. The models are respectful of it, because they know, the boundaries and everything's been set. But someone just walking into it's like, okay, hey, I just want to try it. It's popular, get into it. And next thing you know, a relationship is broken because of that. Because they didn't have the right, teachings or the etiquette of how to handle themselves, beyond just taking the picture. And that's something that I feel like that creative space will be able to give. I'm only one person, so it is going to take, a whole village to be able to build that community.
Well, as a lot of people will tell you, I'm always willing to help a new photographer, or any photographer for that matter, or a model even. But being in the studio business for 17 years, we see all kinds of things, all kinds of people. And there's a lot of people that need help starting out. There really is. And since you're on the other side of town, I'll help this side, you help that side.
Right.
And now, you still a loan officer then?
I do have my license activated, so I still do loans for here and there.
Well, folks, if you need a loan or images, you can always hook up with Shawn.
Multi-talented.
Yeah, multi-talented. So tell me about your film. You said you did filmmaking in college?
Yes, so little miniature comedy shorts. To me, they always had like a lesson. Really, so being in Phoenix, one of the biggest, you can say, arguments is there's a lot of injustice going on. There's a lot of racial profiling. It was I don't even remember the prop or whatnot, but it was just where cops could, request papers from, immigrants, and you don't even know if they're immigrants, but it was just more so, hey, if you look Mexican, you look like an immigrant, I'm gonna ask for papers and get sent. And that caused a lot of uproar. So it was just one of those things like, okay, well, how do you navigate that? How do you navigate your expression, what you feel, and seeing that, whether you're pro to it, whether you're con to it, how do you have the conversation with another individual, and again, be a conversation, because we can disagree and still be okay. So we made like little shorts and just little things. We had racial profiling from being pulled over. It was a scene from, I believe, Family Guy we brought to life, where it was like, a piece of paper that had different shades of colors, like, okay, you're good, you can pass the ticket, something like that. And we just made fun of it. But it also had like a lesson just to be like, we stayed in that neutral zone, but just to make sure it's just like, okay, hey, if you feel a certain way, be able to talk about it as an adult. I don't care if you disagree. I don't care if you agree, but be able to respect the other person's point of view and perspective, because you never know where somebody came from. You never know what they're dealing with. You just, you got to be human to understand, like, not everybody thinks like you.
I can't get the image of you being stopped thinking you're an illegal immigrant from Mexico. He's Mexican, folks. Look at him.
Like, you'd be surprised what you get stopped for. I mean, it's a lot of different things, but I mean, ultimately, it's even on the other side, you got people trying to do their job. Understand, there's a ruling, there's a backing, there's a command on whatever end. You do your best you can, and you try to understand, but you just don't forget that you're human at the end of the day, and the other person you're talking to is human. I don't care where you stand.
Yeah. I have been stopped and ticketed 88 times over the years. Everything from lots of times for speeding, even today. But when I was interfering with the duties of a police officer and for flashing my headlights at oncoming traffic, and word of advice, do not represent yourself in a trial by jury. It doesn't work out well, or it didn't work out well for me. The DA in the city of Grand Prairie turned me to toast. I mean, he slayed me. What can I say?
Yeah.
So do you still do film today?
So I've started to open back into it. Not necessarily in the midst of just making shorts. I haven't refound that creative niche of like, okay, what is it that I want to create that's still me? Everybody wants to be original. So it's like, okay, I don't want to put what's already out there. But even though it's already out there, I still have my own niche that I can put on it. So it's just trying to figure out what that is, what that looks like. It's funny you talk about the scene of representing yourself. So I've been watching a lot of my old TV shows. So I've been watching Martin on Netflix for a little bit. And there's a scene where he represents himself as well over a ticket. And pride got in the way because the ticket was about to be gone because the officer didn't show up at first. But he, ego, pride was like, oh, I'm in here. I've won, so now I'm going to put on a show. Next thing you know, the police officer shows up, and now he's got to pay the ticket. So I think something around recreating a scene like that, but putting different niches on it, just understanding some of the stories that I've heard where, yes, people have represented themselves, didn't know a lick of the law, and one little, verbiage knocks them out. And it's like, now you're sitting there just like, okay, well, I know I lost. So
I wrote the book on ego, folks. No one's is bigger than mine, I can tell you that. Or it used to be larger than it is today. But when my wife and I first got married, we were at the airport for some reason. I picked her up or whatever. And I bought a hat. And she said, the hat looks good on you. I said, yeah, but it's a little big. And she said, well, we'll call that your ego hat. When it starts getting a little tight, you need to reel it in some. And she tells me occasionally, go get your hat and try it on.
Oh, man. I've been there. I hear it. It's the gracious thing of having a wife to anchor you down sometimes. The ego can spread. Especially, I'm very, how do you say, strong-minded sometimes. So especially when it's like, okay, I see things a certain way. I have this certain, breakdown. It's like, all right, I've checked everything. There's nothing you can tell me that is going to, knock out the numbers in a sense. Like I've ran the numbers. And she'll be the first person to be like, well, did you think of this? Like, well, I thought of it all. And then have to come back a day later and be like, wait, what was that again?
Yeah.
You got to humble yourself sometimes and be like, okay, hey, you're right. I don't know it all. I need some help sometimes. So it's been a learning experience being able to go down that, learning path in general.
Well, my wife, she has a lot of skills that I don't have. If it's a math question, it's mine. Mm. If it's a communication question, it's hers. And anybody that knows me knows, well, y'all can tell now, folks, I don't have the best speaking voice in the world. And she does. And she probably ought to be doing the podcast instead of me. But I know all the people. She doesn't. But if you know each other's strengths, marriage is great. Mm. It really is. Amen. Or mine is. Mine is. So we were talking off camera. You did some body paint shooting recently.
Yes. So those have been fun because I am not a painter by any means. And we've had the conversation with the models like, hey, I'm not a painter. We're just going to explore. It was just an experiment at first that now has led to a lot of client requests. So be like, hey, I want to do that. That looks fun. We've done like kind of a galaxy looking piece. That was like the first one. That was kind of the, hey, we're going to pop the cherry with that one. And just from there, it was like, okay, I see where I did great, see where I did wrong, and like, how do we elevate this? Then it just came with more paint, different colors, and it was like, okay, let's not even try to do like an actual piece. Like, let's just see what paint does, and just, hey, we're splatting it here, pouring it there, squeezing it there, patting it down, and that's where, to me, the art has really started to show. Then you add in, a good model, as far as just, and to me, a good model is just someone that just understands themselves. When they know, hey, where their beauty, where they see it from and all that, the camera captures it. And it's just, I feel like it's our job as photographers, we just enhance it.
A good model starts out being one that shows up, folks.
On time.
Yeah, on time.
Communication, yes.
Number 2.
Yes.
Or communication first and then showing up.
Yes.
One of the two.
Absolutely.
Everything else you can overcome. But please show up for the photographer. The first paint experience I had, I'd had the studio about 2 years. And initially our white background was a 12 by 24 piece of floor vinyl. And we just flipped it over and painted the back of it white and nailed it to the wall. And disadvantage, I had to paint it all the time, repaint it, and you couldn't roll it up totally out of the way. Good friend of mine has shot with us all the time. He opened his own studio. He did the same thing for a white background. And a year or two later, he decided to close the studio. And he called me and said, hey, before I take that white background down, got this idea, I want a model, and she's just going to pour paint on herself, take her brush and sling it on the white background. We're not going to try to protect the background at all. Do you know anybody? So I called a model I happen to know, and she loved the idea. And we went over and he brought out 3 or 4 colors, pints or quarts of paint. And she dipped a brush in them, and, big brush. And she's painting herself, and then she dips her hands in it and is throwing it on the wall. It was a fun shoot.
Yes.
And it trashed that background. He asked me, well, do you want it, when we're done? No. I don't think I'll keep this one.
We'll lay it to rest.
I said, we can bring it up to the studio and throw it in our dumpster.
Yeah.
And that's where it ended up. So how do people get hold of you, Shawn?
Typically through email. My Instagram has all my stuff, my website. My actual phone number is on my website, so you can call me, text me directly. Text is preferred just because, I'm always moving. As my wife says, she's got to, schedule a time to call me.
Well, see, I'm always on the road, so I prefer a call because I can keep my eyes on the road.
Yeah.
And not get another ticket. I'm trying to stay under 100 before I die. Well, give them your different socials, say it slowly, and spell it.
Okay. So, Infinite Soul Imagery, and that is INFINITESOUL. Oh, I done messed up my own thing. See, I do this more so right now. Explain it one way. But again, I'm sorry. I'm gonna re-say that again. But Infinite Soul Imagery, and that is INFINITESOULIMAGERY. So Infinite Soul Imagery. Simple as that. No extras. You can find me on social media, which is just Instagram and Facebook. And then you can always contact me at infinitesoulimagery@gmail.com. or shoot me a text 480-272-5996.
Okay. And the infinite starts with N. Infinite.
So, did I spell it wrong again?
I don't know.
I was not paying attention. See, this is why I write stuff down. This is where my wife steps in. She's like, hey, you got all this.
Is she in the wings out there somewhere?
And it's funny. So how the name actually came to be. So I was really trying to figure out, I was like, everybody always asks, what's your niche? What is it that you do? How do you, do your thing? What is it that you specialize in? That's every photographer's question. And I've always been like, I'm like the jack of all trades. I can do it all. Like, what do you mean? That's always been my mindset. So she was like, okay, well, you can call it all things photography. I was like, yeah, nah. She was like, okay. So I was like, okay, well, but somebody's going to pick something. Well, I mean, I like families, and maybe I'll do family. She's like, yeah, but you'll get bored after a week. And I was like, you're right. So then, what else? She's like, okay, well, how about we do, Mr. I? And I was like, nah, like that just sounds like I'm about to be a fake 007 or something like that. So we're going through the process, and she's like, man, you just got an infinite amount of ideas, don't you? And I was like, wait, what you mean? And she's like, yeah, you got an infinite amount. And she said it just like that. She started slowing down. She's like, infinite. And I was like, okay. So I'm on Google search. I was like, okay, what else is out there? Okay, there's already an infinite different types of things out there. And just, I think during that time period, watching, I'm a big civil rights, follower when it comes to certain things. So I was just like, okay, we need to put some flavor on it. Let's put some soul to it. And then it was like, okay, she's like, that's it, infinite soul. So I was like, okay, cool. There is some other derivatives of different things that have infinite soul, but it was just adding the imagery part. Because when we look at the larger scale of everything I want to do with it, it's infinite possibilities. The soul is, the heart that you put behind the creativity, and the imagery is just what you're leaving behind. That's the story that's told. So whether it can still even go into the video, because that's the image that's left in people's mind, after they see whatever you put together. And I hope that, it becomes a household thing, becomes something that, it's not only just under my name, but it's something that either my kids carry in one different way, or, just whoever I meet along the way, partner with, like we build it. And it doesn't have to be like, I don't have to be the face of it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be like my thing. That's why my name isn't attached to it, period. It's a whole different thing that separates me from it. But
It's a brand.
it's a brand, yeah. What they say, like one of my favorite movies.
But infinite is spelled how?
Infinite spelled out, yes.
Yeah, I-N.
I-N, yes.
Okay. Because the second time I thought you said infinite, N, and then went into it.
Oh, if I did.
Which
then
would have
that's
been another way to do it.
Hey, always open. We've talked about rebranding just to be able to open up, what does that look like? Because right now my logo is pretty much, a camera wrapped around a fist. So just holding the fist with the camera inside, that's the image. So that's where it kind of, puts my little ink on it that, hey, there's some soul behind this.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, folks, we appreciate you joining us today. And Shawn is an interesting character. Give him a call, do a shoot with him, or get a loan from him. He's got all kinds of money. So until next week, we'll see you later. Thanks, folks.
Appreciate you.